Hello, Las Vegas, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Golf at the Park, Angel Park Golf Club's weekly interview show. I want to thank you very much for commenting, liking on the videos. We appreciate it. We're giving away buckets of balls and free rounds on Cloud9 for commenters, just to show you our appreciation. Please also hit subscribe so the videos will pop up in your YouTube feed when you log on. It's going to be a fun episode. We've got Shae Kapanui on the show today. Shae, welcome.
Hi.
Thanks for coming in.
It's so exciting.
It's going to be fun. Shae is, you probably already know her. She's a local influencer that just when she was walking up in the front of Angel Park this morning, someone goes, "Oh, you're famous." So that was fun. Maybe a little bit embarrassing. So I hope that doesn't start off that way, but it's your show, so let's just start at the beginning. How were you introduced to golf? Around what age? Because I know that your identity is very placed in golf.
Yep, it is. Well, thank you for having me on the show.
No
first
problem.
And foremost, I'm super excited. How I got placed in golf is a really long story. So I'm a basketball softball player. I grew up playing basketball and softball. My dad was my coach. And that's how we kind of were raised as a family, is, around sports, football, basketball, baseball. I got hurt going into my junior year. And so I kind of lost all of the scholarship offerings that I had because I would re-enter playing my senior year.
For basketball?
For basketball.
Okay.
I kind of just gave it up. I'm 5 feet tall, so it was a blessing to even talk to other coaches. And I'm grateful for that experience, but I ended up picking golf for the last year just to really focus on that and get a scholarship because I do come from a big family.
So were you playing, you probably just didn't pick to play your senior year without playing, right?
Right.
Or did you?
So my dad had introduced me because I played two sports. There's three sports seasons, I would say, in high school. It's fall, winter, and spring. And so I played winter and spring, but my dad was a football coach in the fall. And so I would be at school, because he was a teacher as well, from like 6:30, 7, all the way until like 8:30, 9 p.m.
Did he teach at your school?
He did.
So where'd you go to school?
I went to Liberty High School. It's down by South Point and the M.
So born and raised?
Born and raised in Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
And then raised a little bit more in Vegas.
Great. So you've already been practicing. You're not brand new to the game, and I'm guessing you get on the team pretty easy. Your senior year?
Yeah. I mean, my senior year there were about, 4 girls.
So
4
light
girls.
team.
Well, a little bit of backstory. I did play my sophomore year. I just picked it up when the season had started because my dad's friend was the coach. And so he got me into golf because, I was going to be at school anyways. He's like, just go to the golf course, learn a sport, get a letter for your jacket. And I was like, oh yeah, fill up my jacket. But so I did play my sophomore year. But I played the entirety of my senior year, including side tournaments.
How'd you do? It must have been tough for Liberty to compete with a small team.
So my first season, my sophomore year, there were 3 girls. 3 girls. The 3 of us, we tried our best. We all never played. And so it was probably even more trying for the golf coach because he never really played either. It was more of like, hey, we need a golf team. We need a golf coach. Do you want to do it? And he's like, yeah, I like whacking the ball around. But he didn't realize how hard it was when you're trying to teach other people and then actually play and score. Because when people go out, most times you don't really score too heavily. You take a lot of mulligans. You have fun. But when it comes to tournament settings and rules, it was driving him crazy. It was driving us crazy. I mean, I came home from one tournament one day and I shot like 121. And because they double your score just playing 9, we took like 3.5 hours to play 9.
That's a hard lesson to learn, right?
I mean, no golf carts. You have to carry your bag around. It's the summer. Well, it's fall, but it's still summer. So
that's fun. So you graduate senior year. Did you go to college? Take us through that.
I did. So a little bit touching on my sophomore year, I played for that little season. Kind of was like, it's fun, but I'm going to focus on softball and basketball. I tore my ACL and then sat down and was like, okay, my senior year, it's going to be golf. I'm sorry. I'm so nervous. I forgot the question.
Take your time. So take us into college.
Okay. So I ended up getting a few scholarships. And
For golf?
For golf.
Fun.
After taking that full season, talking to coaches, playing outside tournaments, I got a couple of offers, which were very exciting to me because I never thought I could do it.
That's
My
a big
parents,
deal.
They were a little hesitant. They're like, "Are you sure you want to go this route? Like, we can still train you for basketball. We can, And I was like, but there's just a lot of money in golf. I talked to my counselor, and I got a scholarship. I picked Alcorn State.
Okay.
It's a small D1 school in Mississippi, so if you haven't looked it up, I would definitely look it up in your maps right now and just see how secluded it was.
So small school. And let's not gloss over the fact that it's D1. You got a D1 golf scholarship. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's hard
Thank
to do.
you.
So how's college career go?
That is actually something that I haven't really been too open about yet, which...
Are you ready to do it now?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
I've been teetering with it, but I think it is something that I do want young girls to really take into consideration when choosing these schools because it is a real thing. The first week, I just kind of want to paint you a picture. So the first week, my coach, he quit. Our very first meeting, we were there. I was like, okay, let me meet some friends. I was staying in the same room as two other golfers. And then my roommate, because I had gotten the scholarship late, she was from the town. And so we get called into this meeting. I think it was Friday or Saturday. So I'd been there for a couple days now. And he goes, hey guys, it was really great meeting you all. I'm super excited. You guys are great athletes, great people. I'm going to go to a nearby college in, I think it was Virginia. And we kind of sat there like, okay, cool. We're just like shaking hands, meeting the boys team, the girls team. That was the first time we ever mingled. And so we all sat there like, oh, shoot. And so that's why I told you to look up where Alcorn State is, because when you fly out there intending to play golf, or like if you're there for athletics and your coach quits, that's very hard.
Sure. First time away from home.
First time
far
away
away
from
from home.
Yeah, it didn't work out the way I thought. He actually went to an A&M school, and he pulled me aside. He's like, hey, you're pretty athletic. You have the basketball, softball background. He's like, I'd love to pull you.
Is he recruiting you?
Yeah, he's like, I'd love to pull you on. He's like, we can make it work. He's like, the only thing is you'll have to wake up at 5 a.m. and go running. And I was like, no, thank you. No, thank you.
That's great. You mentioned that it was a lesson for young girls. So why don't you try to put into words what you learned from that?
Okay. To say it lightly, I went to an HBCU, and so with that, there is, it's in the South, and so the culture is a lot different, and I was the 1%. I was the minority of the entire place, and so...
It must have been hard.
It's hard to explain kind of the thought process that I had because I thought it was cool. I came from Hawaii, which, a lot of people love visiting that place. And then, moving to Vegas when I was a kid, I was 10. So I grew up with a lot of diversity. So I was always used to just everybody being very open to everything.
Well, let's bring up the hard word, maybe, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think you might be dodging. Are we talking racism?
Yeah. No, yeah. I don't want to say it because I'm way past that and I don't think like that anymore. But it was really confusing for a 17-year-old girl to go into that type of environment where you try to make friends, your coach quits. You know, the girls there, they don't like you because the
You're
boys
different.
like you a little too much. No, seriously. It was like going to a dessert table, and since I'm the 1%, like there's all these great desserts, but it's one type. And then it's like all cake, 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 cake. And you see this like little piece of pie, and you're like, oh, I got to have that one because that's the only one.
So how'd you deal with the boys?
I didn't. I ended up leaving. It was rough.
It was too much.
It was too much. I got touched. You know, I tried to go to like parties because that was all they did there. And I tried to meet friends, and it was never a pleasant time. Yeah. It was rough, and I think that really the thing that was the what is that reference? You know, the last straw. The last straw
Yep.
for me was when I got followed home.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
almost cornered. Thank God I had made like a couple of solid acquaintances where it's like, "Hey, I might be in trouble. Can you keep walking with me?" And they were like, "Oh shoot, yeah. Okay."
And you got through it.
I did.
But you left. So where'd you go?
Well, before I left, I gave it the benefit of the doubt. And I do want to point this out because seeking help should be the first option. I don't think you should ever quit or give up because the situation is not in your favor. I think you should keep rooting for yourself, and that's what I did. So I went to therapy. I went to the counselors in the school that they provided, and they said that's how kids are kids. You know, kids are kids. You know, you just got to toughen up a little bit. And that's why I wanted to say that. That was my point, is with getting help, you have to find your person.
Yeah, and it's a shame that's a fact. I mean, it sounds like such a horrible thing to be told, but they're not wrong. This generation, every time we think we are evolving, parents still aren't raising their young men right, and that's that's tough. Therapy comes up a lot on this show, maybe not as much as it should. Asking for help and getting it. So I'm so happy for you that you got to do that.
Oh,
How'd you
you
decide where to go?
It was one of those things where I just couldn't take it anymore. I packed up and I went to California to see something a little different. It's like I can't go back home because there was still a part of me that felt like a failure. It felt like I tore my ACL. I worked so hard to get this scholarship. I go out and it tanks. My coach quits. I have problems with everyone. Not everyone, but majority.
No, the mountain was high to climb.
So I moved back to California. Well, not back. I moved to California with my aunt for a little bit just to kind of, center myself, take a little vacation, get a little bit of help. And then I went to school in the Bay.
Beautiful.
I ended up going to Menlo College. I got an academic scholarship instead of the athletic.
Brains too. No wonder the boys were chasing you.
Oh, I'm just a homebody. I'm super quiet, bookworm, video games. But yeah, I was blessed enough to get an academic scholarship. I went there, but when you kind of push yourself to do something that you're really not ready for, and you know you're not ready, you're like, give it more time. I was too eager. I didn't want that failure to sit in, and I jumped back in it. And at that point, I was paying, the rest of the cost of whatever the athletic or academic scholarship didn't give. And I was like, what's the point?
So you left that school.
I left that school too.
And did you come home?
I did. I did. I was there for a little bit. And then I came back home and just kind of chilled. I started working at a golf course.
Was it Valley High? I know that's where you work now.
No, my first golf course job actually was at Revere.
Oh, another great spot.
It was in, I think, 2018. Feels so long ago. Oh, shoot. Maybe 17. Wait, it was 2017. It was, yeah.
And now you get to work on your game.
Oh, yeah.
So let's go through the golf bug and your grinding years.
So I actually put the sticks away, believe it or not. I still kept with the golf course jobs, but I was like, playing just doesn't sit right. But I love golf. I had this immediate love for it. I could watch it on TV before I even played, and my dad never understood, which is probably why he told me to play golf. But I would just work these jobs, and I quit up until COVID, until everybody started golfing, and I was like, wait, I miss it. My friends are golfing. They've never golfed before, and I'm a little bit seasoned. I'd played maybe for almost a year collectively at that point.
COVID is the most brought up thing on this show. It's exciting for golf. I mean, it was a real boom for golf. So you're playing a lot after that, right?
Yeah. I mean, the deals were rolling. Everybody was just starting to get into it. So a lot of the golf courses in the area were like, we're the first people open. We need business. Everybody wants to try it. Let's give them a good deal. I played actually Valley High for the first time during COVID because, as a local, it's a little expensive. Take that out. Wait, you can keep it in. But
no,
it's a little expensive.
It's not a lie. It's hard. So
it's a pretty penny, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
So we're going to get to the fact that you're an influencer and you're already a successful influencer, and I feel like you are going to skyrocket. When do you start integrating social media, and how?
Thank you. When did I start?
Yeah.
I started, honestly, with my TikTok. It started with TikTok during COVID. It was blowing up at the time. We had a lot of free hours. And I was like, let me just go on here. And I kind of got sucked into the hole that everybody was into. And I was doing the dances, just meeting people. I was kind of isolated during COVID, so more or less by myself. And so that was the only way I could meet people.
It was your outlet and your way to express yourself and meet people.
Right.
That's fun. When do you start making golf TikToks?
I started implementing them, honestly, into my everyday life. It was more like Shay on TikTok. Oh, she golfs. So it was just like a little sprinkle. I initially, when COVID hit and I decided to pick up the sticks again, it was more for mental health. It was more for me just getting back on the course. Like, this is where you found peace once. Like, go find it again. And I kept that away from social media because that was like my thing. They don't know that I golf. They don't know anything.
Well, I know that you start working with a lot of different people, and the first time I was introduced to you was through Mikey Bruscino. Shout out,
Mikey.
Dogleg. And you guys did a really cool piece where you guys are hitting balls, and he's kind of checking you out, and then you're just there for golf, and you're a good golfer, and it's a great piece. How did that? Who came up with that, and how did that happen?
Oh, Mike, what a great guy. No, seriously, shout out Mike. I don't know. We met through an influencer named Roger Steele.
He comes up?
Yes. At the time, I worked at 5 Iron Golf, and when I met him, I think I was just a server. I was just serving, helping out with the leagues. I had worked with Roger, and
so had he.
Yeah. Roger knew that I was comfortable on camera. So he was like, I need somebody from 5 Iron to be on camera. Mike comes in, does the video for us. And so he's like, oh, I live here, let's connect. And I was like, oh yeah, for sure. Because at that time I was kind of like getting my feet wet. I'm just like, I don't know about the golf world.
So that's the beginning. How do you start knowing about the golf world and that you want to do it more? Because you didn't start with the idea of being a golf influencer,
Right.
but that's your identity now, or at least part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So how's that start?
I think it started with 5-iron. It started when I was working in the simulators. I was there every day, and it's not busy during the entirety of the day. We had 8 simulators, and so if you place it in Area 15 and you have a bunch of kids, that's the last thing they think about is golf. All the dads go up there, drink a beer, hit some balls. But there's open simulators, and I would practice, hit balls, because, I loved my job. But being that I put up this, or that I got my clubs again or just started playing again, I wasn't very good. And it kind of drove me crazy because it's like, how am I supposed to hype this place up if I can't hit the ball properly, or if I'm not hitting well? How am I?
So you're almost driven by a desire to be good at work.
Yep.
That's awesome. I mean, so work ethic too. We're trying to find your flaws.
Oh, they'll come up. Give me time.
So, gosh, that's inspiring. And you're very open with admitting that you weren't very good. How do you start progressing? What did that feel like once you start getting better?
Well, I was a softball player, so naturally the hand-eye coordination with the ball, as long as you're like, okay, the ball's not moving, just hit the same spot. I got it down pretty good, but I did have a lot
softball
of
swing.
Yep, a lot of technical flaws, which the pro at 5-iron, and he was like, I have never seen a little girl swing like that. It was fascinating to him, and I was like, well, how can I fix this, or what can I do? And we would just sit there for maybe 10 minutes.
So was he your
here.
first instructor?
My first instructor was actually Mr. Collins Tamashiro out in Red Rock Country Club.
Shout out Collins.
Shout out Collins. He started at Revere, and he had met me taking very large divots out of his driving range, because that's where my high school home course was. So I'm sorry, Collins, and I'm sorry, Revere.
Well, you're past it now. Who was the guy at 5-iron that helped you?
Sean Solodovnik.
Sean's come up on this show before.
He is an amazing instructor. He knows his stuff. He came from Florida. He ran a country club down there for, I think, over 15 years.
Shout out Sean, then. We need you on the show.
Shout out Sean.
I'll be reaching out.
Yep. And then he opened up Top Golf, and yeah, he has a whole story, but he's really good at what he does. If you ever need lessons, Collins, Sean, they got you.
So I love that you're getting better, and you're working on your swing, which is awesome. And you're playing with friends, right? So you get to mix both scoring and having fun, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Yeah, so you did it the right way. So many people, and it's not the wrong way, but so many people either do one or the other, and I feel like that's restricting to a golfer. I think it's important that you have both qualities and both interests. So that's fun. When do you start noticing that you're getting attention as a golf influencer?
Honestly, the first time that I really felt in my core that I was like, okay, wow, like I'm doing something, was this morning. When he looked at me, he's like, you're famous. And I was like, no, I'm not.
Wow.
But
so it hasn't hit you yet, or it hadn't.
No, I don't see myself as I don't like the word influencer.
That's important. Let's tell us why.
I would say golf advocate.
Great word.
Only because I don't know what I'm influencing. I don't want to influence anybody to play golf necessarily. I don't want to influence them to do what I do.
Well, maybe that's why you're so good at it, is because you do approach it as an advocate. you were on just a couple of weeks ago on one of our short form content pieces. You were out here shooting. Well, let me explain what happened. It was fun because Kareem and I came out and we were talking about what we were going to ask her to do. I was super excited. And I said, well, I don't know if we start with the 5 questions because I'm really hoping she'll come on the show. And I decided just on that drive out, I said, why don't you just have her explain what she's doing? It's probably the most natural. And you got it right away. We asked you if you could do it. It was on the spot. And told you what we wanted to do, and you were like, yeah, that's easy. And then you turned to your boyfriend, I believe, and said,
Yep.
shoot some B-roll. So you know what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, I want to help in any way I can. And I think just kind of experiencing or getting my foot into the game is just opened my eyes to a lot of different production levels. So, you know, if somebody at first wanted me to film a TikTok for them, it's like, okay, I can do this TikTok, but how can I do it even better? Or if I'm doing an interview, it's like, okay, I'll take into consideration what we're doing now and my next interview. It's like certain mannerisms I'll fix or certain tendencies I'll fix. So it's always learning for me. I always like learning.
That's awesome. I think it's important to maybe point out that you maybe haven't thought about it this way, but you're working on being on camera, but you're also working on being a filmmaker. Have you thought about it like that?
Thank you. Recently, I have found out that I do love being behind it a lot more than in front of it. It was just more of, I didn't have anyone to edit besides myself. And I think that's where I'm finding myself in this game, is really, you know, what I love doing, which is golf, but I don't necessarily like being on the camera too much. I do love talking about the game or showcasing it in some way. But when it's made about me, it's a little frightening.
I can really relate to that, and I'll tell you why. When we started this show, it's because I do like to be on camera, but it was important to me for golf to not have the show about me. I've been trying to work on interviewing and really showcasing each episode of the other person. You're the talent
Thank you.
in this show, and I'm just supposed to just guide and document. So,
Well, you're the steady talent. You know, you're the constant talent.
right. Well, that's interesting, and thank you. But I think I'm going to start calling myself an advocate for golf because that's
love it.
that's what I want to be, and I think that's important. Where do we go? Let's think. Okay, let's talk about your clubs. Are you a club freak?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
So you just kind of, what are you playing?
I play Callaway X's. They're pretty standard, a little older. I got them when I first went to college, and since I put them away after a couple months, you know, they were pretty clean coming out during COVID.
What about golf apparel?
Golf
I'm
apparel?
pretty sure you're into that.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Well, I have to give a shout out to my Adidas fam. I do love Adidas.
We need to start talking about who you're promoting. We didn't cover it with Kareem. Adidas was one of them. Why don't you tell us who you were promoting that week?
That week, I was promoting for Adidas their collab with Bogey Boys. Macklemore, he came out with a golf brand and golf clothing line, and then they came out with a separate line within that clothing brand to collab with Adidas. So it was kind of cool to see two brands that I really do like come together. And their line is pretty amazing. I mean,
Well, I've seen it. It's sharp.
they're taking it to a whole new level.
And their women's is as good? Mm-hmm. Because the only other female we've had on the show, shout out Mallory Berry, one of the things that she said is most frustrating, I think it's her least favorite thing about golf, is women's apparel.
Yep.
And that it needs to go further and it needs to advance with what women want and not what men think they need to make for them.
Oh, 100%. If I did this interview last year or even, no, I would say last year because I've been with Adidas for about 6 months now, I would have said the same exact thing. Only because I'm very petite, I'm 5 feet tall, and so a lot of times I reach for the kids section or the tennis section because the skirts are a little shorter, smaller. But
how tough and frustrating that must have been.
I mean, I I didn't know that there was I'm a big tomboy. So when my mom bought me the skirts, they were to my knees pretty much. And I can bring them and wear them. But they were to my knees. My golf shirts, they were like almost to my knees, but I would tuck them in. I didn't know that it could you could dress still woman-like in golf. But yeah, it's just because nothing fit me. But fast forward a couple more years, I'm really happy with Adidas and how they have
Shout
grown.
out Adidas's women's apparel. You
Yes,
guys are finally
they
doing
are
it right.
finally.
So congratulations.
This season is a huge season. They finally branched out and did they've branched out and did the Adidas golf line instead of just Adidas. But this year, there's so many releases, so many new sizes, fixes within them. So it's good to see that there's progress, but I wish that it'd be a little quicker.
Adidas is a pretty big brand. Are you promoting anybody else? Are you working with anybody else?
At the moment, no. I feel like Adidas was just one of those blessings that fell into my lap, and I'd be dumb to say no.
You mentioned early on in the interview that you were watching golf even before you were playing golf. And this is one of my fun parts of the segment. What were you watching? Who were you watching? How much have you watched? Has that grown? Tell us about your experience and your viewing patterns.
Well, when I saw golf as a sport, because I grew up around sports, my dad played football, all that stuff. So naturally, when the TV went on for the little amounts that I was home to watch TV, it was always a sports channel. But it was always fast-paced, and it's like I want to sit down and unwind, and I don't know if people have a similar train of thought. But when the golf channel or a golf match came on, I would just sit there and I'm like, this is very peaceful. Something about it is intriguing to me. And
that's awesome.
It's not that I really reached for it necessarily, but if it were placed in front of me, I could sit there and watch and forget the time. And so I think that was one of the factors when saying yes to my dad. Because it's like, okay, it does seem a little interesting, but very tough getting kids into golf.
Yeah, it's a hard game to get into.
Yeah.
But then once you get started, it's easy to get addicted to. Who are your favorites?
Well, Ricky Fowler was my favorite, only because I loved his bright colors. I didn't know a lick of golf, so I didn't really know who I was watching. It was more of like, whose outfits are cool? Who pops? I watched Bubba Watson because he had that pink driver at the time, and so I was like, ooh, pretty driver, But I didn't watch anyone specific.
When I watch golf with Leah, I think this is the first time she's been brought up on the show. I love you. The funny thing is that I'm watching golf and she's watching how they're dressed, and she's like, he needs someone, a wardrobe assistant. This guy's got it. Who knows if he's got a woman helping him? She's very in tune to that, and I've always thought that was an interesting dichotomy.
Oh yeah.
So that's fun. I think, oh no, two more. What's your least favorite thing about golf?
My least favorite thing about golf right now is probably writing down my score. Only because I know. See, you fall in love with golf, and then you get to a point in your life where you care so much about your score that it almost hurts you to write it down. And at some point during the round, you're going to keep score. And then when you pick up that card on 18, it's going to have a bunch of empty boxes. That is my least favorite thing. And that's something I'm trying to overcome, because it's like I can't fathom writing down a blow up hole on my card.
Yeah, that's tough. What's your favorite thing about golf?
My favorite thing about golf? Oh, gosh. I think my favorite thing right now is developing feel.
I love that you said right now, because I do think that answer changes. Developing feel. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that.
I mean, I'm 5 feet, probably 115 after a nice breakfast and lunch. But I can drive the ball on a good day upwards of 280 to 300 yards. And for the better half of my career, my golf life, I honed in on that. It was like, I need to hit the ball far. I need to drive far. But it's like, I hit the ball far. Why can't you just hone in on the other skills that you have? And so I kind of put the driver down. I'm like, okay, I can hit the driver instead of increasing my distance by 1 to maybe 5 yards if I'm lucky. Because at a certain point, it's going to cap.
Right.
If I have my driver, most females on average hit anywhere between 180 to 220 yards off the roll. I need to take that little blessing and I need to work on my other key points in my game. And so I think feel.
And you enjoy working on it.
Yes.
That's fun.
Because when you hit that golf ball and you feel it and you know, like, this is exactly how I need to hit it, this is exactly what I need to do, it feels like home. Enjoy, it feels like warm milk.
I love that. Enjoy might be the wrong word. Would you go so far as to say you love that?
It's addicting.
Yeah.
It's addicting. It's probably the only reason why I'm having such a hard time completing my scorecard right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a bogey golfer, and so I don't, shoot. I mean, I don't ever finish a round and not expect to shoot what I shot.
So do you have goals of getting in the low 80s, breaking 80? Are those things that you're looking forward to, or do you not think about that as much?
Oh, no, I'm chasing it.
Yeah.
I'm chasing it. So I think that's where I'm getting to the scorecard point, because if I'm not chasing my best score, then it's like, why? Let me just practice on what I need to practice, and let me have my blow-up holes.
You are fierce. This is fun.
You.
This has been so
just super
fun.
Obsessed. I'm a golf nerd.
I love it. I love it. That's the best part of this show for me is that every single person who's on it really, really loves the game. And that's fun. That's going to bring us to the end of the first part of the interview. The second part is our series of par 5 questions. We're going to play a par 5 with Shay, where we ask the same 5 questions every week and come up with different answers. So are you ready?
I think so.
Favorite golf movie?
Favorite golf movie? It's so basic, but Happy Gilmore. I'm an Adam Sandler fan to my core. My boyfriend will laugh at me watching this, but I just love Adam Sandler. I grew up on him, 51st Dates, Happy Madison, everything. So Happy Gilmore was a movie that I knew like the back of my hand before I even picked up a club.
That's fun.
Yeah.
And it's such a funny movie that I think a lot of people don't get into it. Rocky was on the show earlier, and he didn't get into it necessarily for the golf at first. He got into it because of Adam Sandler and because he was a hockey player, and that's what Rocky related to. And so that's fun. It's always fun to hear favorite movies and why.
I mean, keep it kosher. I wanted to be a lawyer when I grew up because my favorite movie at that time when I was 8 was Legally Blonde. So it's only natural that I love golf because I loved Happy Gilmore.
That's awesome. Question number 2. What's your favorite club in your bag and why?
My favorite club. That changes all the time too. Probably my 6-iron. My 6-iron. I've been working on her a lot. And she's come really far. I
love that you feminize her. That's awesome.
Oh my gosh, because I mean, stubborn, so stubborn. Like, I love golf. I'm sorry. I'm going to apologize a lot, but when I first started playing, I didn't hit anything. I didn't hit 6. I only have 6, 7, 8, 9 right now through the lower clubs. But I didn't hit my 6, 7, or 8. And I hardly ever used my 9. It was like, okay, play from the ladies' tees, hit driver, and then use your approach or sand or pitching wedge. And that was kind of what I did for a long time. But when I started getting better, it's like, okay, move back or play a different club off the tee. And so that allowed me to hit the other clubs because I'm like, eventually, if I play with other people, they're going to catch my bluff. I'm going to be too good at just driver, pitching wedge, driver, approach wedge, I need to get the feel of the other clubs. And the 6-iron, she was the last one. I actually didn't start hitting her on the course until this year. I'm trying to think. I'm thinking April.
So that's why it's recently your favorite club.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You brought up earlier
Just
in
a
the interview that we were going to get to some of your personality weaknesses. And I was not going to try to get to those because that's awkward. But you just brought up something when you were describing your daughter, the 6-iron, and you said she's stubborn.
Yep.
Do you have a problem with being stubborn?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Everybody says it. I'm very headstrong, but respectfully, you know.
No, stubborn can be a blessing too. It can be a strength.
It's kind of weird because, speaking onto my personality, it's only the things that I can control. It's never outwards. It's more of like, I know I can do this. Why am I not doing this? Which is the perfect recipe for a head case on the golf course, which is probably why I'm not shooting in the low 80s or high 70s right now, which is what everybody thinks I shoot just off seeing my swing, which is kind of internally frustrating, like on the backside, which is why I practice so much. But yeah.
Well, working on your feel is an example of you trying not to be stubborn because you used to avoid it so much. So maybe in your head to keep getting better, that's another thing to just think about is not being stubborn in your ways and always looking for different ways to chase the feel or the the end goal, not sticking with what you always do.
Yeah. I mean, I was getting good. I was shooting lower and lower and lower, just doing what I was doing. But then when I think about it and I sit down, I'm like, that's not right. Because you're going to go to another golf course or somewhere else with different yardages, and what are you going to do then? You're just going to hit pitching wedge and then chip and then take a bogey.
Right.
It was more of just dialing in, fixing my golf IQ, because that's where I'm lacking. My body is used to the sports and the athletics. So it's like, if you tell my body to do something and you tell me it's correct, I'll keep doing it until my body feels it. But it's more of telling my mind, like, okay, think about this. If you're in the rough, it's going to be harder to hit. Or if you're in the fairway, easier. And so little things to shave off the score, you know, taking off those little extra strokes, it's helped me to develop a love for feel. Because it's like, you know where to hit it. You got to know.
Well, thank you for taking us through your thought process, because I probably don't ask that question enough. And that was really cool. Question number 3, my favorite question. What would be your dream foursome? So you can pick any 4 people, alive or dead, to play around a golf with, and who would you pick and where would you play?
I would play at the Wynn Golf Course, only because I haven't played there before. I know that it's probably more expensive than Pebble Beach, so...
Which is insane, but...
I would pay for Pebble Beach before I pay for a course in my hometown. That's for sure.
Something tells me we can find a way to get you on the Wynn.
The Wynn Golf Course, if you're watching this, my name's Shaena Exlin. I'm just kidding. But the Wynn, because working at Bali High Golf Course, you talk to a lot of the guests, and I ask them because I'm curious. I'm filling up my bucket list, my travel golf guide, and it's like, where can I golf next? You're from here. What course is the best there? Or in your opinion, what course is worth it? And kind of just getting that, they always talk about the Wynn. You know, they mention a golf course, but it's always like, have you ever played the Wynn? The Wynn is probably one of the best golf courses I've ever played. As far as like maintenance, just everything about it, the resort feel. So I've heard great things about it.
Yeah. Interesting fact about the Wynn is it was built on top of the old Desert Inn Golf Club, which very many people would say was the best golf course in town for a long, long time. And they did it right. I think I speak for a lot of local golfers, were a little sad and worried about the DI, losing the DI, and they've done it right. It's a great golf course they put on top of it. But who are you playing with?
That's awesome. First, I'm going to play with Tony Finau. Tony was probably, he wasn't my first favorite, but he was the first favorite I had knowing the game of golf. So going into golf, kind of choosing someone as like, okay, who do I want to keep my eye on? Who do I want to kind of follow but not follow? And it's Tony. So.
Were you a fan of Tony before or after the Netflix episode? Because he had one of the best episodes of that series.
Before. I've been a fan of Tony's and Ricky's since the Shriners Open in 2018. Oh, no, 2017. I keep thinking 18. I'm getting old.
Oh, do not say that.
I know. I'm sorry.
Cute.
You get a point where it's like, okay, I'm forgetting these years. It's been too long.
Okay, so Tony Finau.
I watched him and Ricky Fowler at the Shriners Open. I think I went on a Sunday, but my family's big. I'm the oldest of 5 siblings, and so when you're walking around with 7 people, and my dad is, a big Hawaiian dude. My brothers,
you can relate.
My brothers were bigger than me, and I'm, like years older than them. He naturally gravitated. They're always so friendly. He gravitated towards a group which was similar in size, maybe even bigger than ours. And they were walking, and I was in high school doing my thing, and I was like, I'll text you where I'm at. So I would like walk around. I walked, and I saw Ricky Fowler tee off. He was wearing his orange. And I got in trouble, actually, walking on the cart path while he was teeing off. And he and I had a moment.
Wow.
He looked at me because the marshals next to him were like, stop walking. And he was like getting ready to tee off, and he looked back at me, and I was like, I'm sorry, Ricky. But yeah, I loved him after that because he remembered, and he was very nice.
That's awesome.
But my dad, I'm sorry, so it turns out that when my dad was hanging out with this group, it was actually Tony's family.
How cool.
And so, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm getting so sidetracked talking about them.
No, that's the point of the show. Who else would you play with? Who's number 2?
I would say my dad.
That's a good answer. Very common answer.
It is common, but I don't get to play as often with him as I'd like.
That comes up too when people say friends or family and we find out they're still with them. I'm like, well, you can go do that. Yeah, so you should push your dad to play a little bit more often.
Oh yeah, I know. It's always the younger ones saying like, oh my gosh, I just have so much to do. I'm so busy. No, my dad, he is the young one. He has been a coach since I was 8. So he coached at Liberty High School. He's now at Bishop Gorman. And so he doesn't have time for me. He's running, being young, traveling.
Finau, dad.
Finau.
You got one left.
Dad. Arnold Palmer.
Awesome answer. Also a tie to Angel Park. That's fun. Why?
When I first started learning the personality of my swing, so if you don't know, your swing is a personality. We all are one.
Roy McAvoy talks about that in 10 Cup. Yeah, your swing is your identity almost.
Right. And so when I was learning about it and learning what's good for me, not good for me, Sean actually from 5-Iron, he was like, you kind of remind me of Arnold Palmer a little bit. He sent me a side-by-side photo. Obviously, it looks way off from what it was now, but it looked identical. Like the foot placement, the knee placement, I have to pull it up, but it was identical. And from that point on, I was just a little too obsessed. I'm not obsessed too much anymore, but let's just say my drink of choice is Arnold Palmer.
Oh, I like that. We're going to get actually, that's the next question.
Not a John Daly, Arnold Palmer.
That's great foursome. Great foursome. Question number 4. What's your aiming fluid? So when you go out on the course, what are you drinking?
I drink water. The occasional Gatorade well, I do Gatorade. I try to do mostly waters, maybe a Gatorade, occasional soda, just for sugar. I'm low sugar, so.
It's always fun to hear a non-alcohol answer because water is the most important.
Oh, in the desert?
Well, let me ask you maybe an intrusive question. Are you a drinker? Do you drink when you're not playing golf?
Not as much as somebody my age should.
Should is an interesting...
Yeah, I mean, there was never really like I don't know. If my friend's like, hey, let's go out for drinks, I'm like, okay, but where are we eating? We're going to have a dinner and I'll have a beer, or dinner and a wine. And that's maybe like once or twice a week. I'll maybe have a total of 2 or 3 drinks.
That's fun. Question number 5, the end of the episode. Also the time where it may not be PG rated anymore. I want you to feel completely comfortable to answer honestly. And it doesn't matter that we get all sorts of answers to this, some clean and some not.
Okay.
When you're on the golf course and you hit a bad shot or you're not playing well, do you have any word or phrase that you say out loud or to yourself? Because most golfers tend to have something that they go to, almost like a favorite club.
You know, just like a golf bag, I have probably 14 of them. It's 14, right?
13.
13. Oh no, one too many.
Do you have a favorite, or do you just want to list all 14 in rapid fire?
It's more of me like at myself. It's never.
We get that.
It's never the ball. Like, fuck is one of them. You just kind of. It's so subconscious. Like, I'm sure if you kept a rolling camera of me, I'll probably whisper fuck about 18 times. Once a hole.
Well, yeah, you whispered it at first, which was fun, and it's the most common answer. So there's nothing to be embarrassed about with that.
I like calling myself a stupid whore.
Let's go, Shay.
Like, what are you doing, you stupid whore? Like, and my guy friends will just drop and laugh. I'm like, just keep going. Like, what are you laughing at? Or I use the C word.
Oh, wow.
On the course.
You don't have to say it here.
It's mostly putts. When I miss a putt, I'm like, oh, God. Like, I don't like myself on the golf course, but I love the game so much that I come back to hate myself more.
Awesome.
Probably stupid whore is the biggest one that I say to myself. Like, are you fucking kidding me, stupid whore?
Almost ashamed to end on that. What do you say when you hit a really good shot? Let's not end on stupid whore.
Usually when I hit a good shot on the golf course, it's after a few shitty ones, and I'm like, see, why couldn't you have done it? Why couldn't you have done this?
You're still abrasive.
Or if I hit a good one, I'm like, see, that's the one. Remember. I'm like,
that's what you need to say.
And I'll go back again.
Shay, this was awesome.
It was so fun. Thank you for having me. Did you have fun?
Good. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back next week. And until next time, hit 'em straight from your friends at Angel Park. Cheers.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. If there is anything that you want to touch on or that I miss completely that you want to cover, I'm willing to do it for you.
Oh, that's so nice.
No, I'm a perfectionist with like the stuff that I put out.
I think you were honest and vulnerable, and you said some hard things to say.
I know you know I'm thinking about that.
I hope it felt cleansing though.
It is cleansing. I think I'm more worried about how people will perceive it, because it's like I'm past it, and I do want to advocate for it, but it's not something that I'm going to put out like, hey, this is what I've been through, and I know you guys do the same thing. It's more of you want to know about my history, well, that's real. You know, that's what it is. Also, keep a cool head or like a strong head about it. Just know. And hoping that they can see me past.
Well, as a perfectionist, I can tell you that this was my favorite episode because I didn't know you going in.
Thank you.
But I felt as comfortable as I would if I knew somebody. So let's
Thank
be
you.
friends.
No, I appreciate that. That means a lot.
Yep. So awesome. And I might leave this part in. Who knows?